Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. We've officially made it to week one of the 2025 NFL season. It's been a very long off season. We can finally get into some meaningful NFL football games. Week one kicks off with an NFC East matchup as the defending Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles take on the Dallas Cowboys. The Eagles, the defending Super Bowl champions, still have a lot of pieces from that Super Bowl team. Still have Saquon Barkley in the backfield, Jalen Hurts at quarterback. Still have a lot of their key defensive pieces. And some young guys like Nolan Smith who can hopefully step up with the absence of uh, Joshua Sweat, who left in free agency. And then for the Cowboys they brought in George Pickens in the offseason. They unfortunately lost All-Pro offensive guard Zach Martin to retirement. They lost Miles Sanders to free agency, brought in Javonte Williams and lost Rico Dowdle. Miles Sanders was one of the players they brought in. And defensively, they traded away their best defensive player in Micah Parsons to the Green Bay Packers. They did get Kenny Clark in return, as well as 2 first-round draft picks. Um, Kenny Clark, they brought him in to hopefully help defend against the run, which I don't think he's going to be enough for their defense to help stop Saquon Barkley this week. So I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles will get the victory. I think Saquon could have a pretty good game. I think Philadelphia will get out to an early lead, and um, with the Cowboys question marks on offense, um, question marks on defense, question marks in the running game, I think the Philadelphia Eagles, being I think the more talented team, should be able to get ahead, keep a lead, and get out with a victory here. Next up, you have on September 5th, you have a Friday night game, AFC West battle, as the Kansas City Chiefs, who are the defending AFC champions, take on the Los Angeles Chargers. The Chiefs are a team that are always going to be very talented. I think they're still going to have a very good defense. Obviously, still have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Andy Reid at head coach. So they're going to be a very well coached team. Patrick Mahomes is always going to play well. They still have Travis Kelce. I think Xavier Worthy going into his second season there. They beefed up their offensive line. Um, and for the Chargers, they got rid of their 2 leading rushers from last season in Gus Edwards and J.K. Dobbins. They brought in Najee Harris in free agency. Has been dealing with an eye injury that he suffered from a firework incident happened around the 4th of July, but it looks on track to play this week. They also brought in the draft in the first round rookie running back Marion Hampton, who's a very talented running back. He could have a big role in this offense. Still have Lad McConkey at wide receiver. They brought Keenan Allen back in free agency after training camp. They're still going to have a very good defense. Obviously, still have Justin Herbert. It's a very talented quarterback. My biggest question mark for them is their offensive line, as their all-pro left tackle, Rashawn Slater, suffered a knee injury and will be out for the season. So they're moving right tackle, second-year player Joe Alt from right tackle to the left tackle position. So see how that goes this season. But I am going to go with the Kansas City Chiefs to get the victory here. I think they are just more talented. I think their defense should have a very good game. I think they're going to be a team that is playing with a chip on their shoulder because they did just lose the Super Bowl. So I do think the Kansas City Chiefs get a victory here. Now, moving on to the 1 o'clock games on Sunday. First off, you have an NFC South battle as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers take on the Atlanta Falcons. The Buccaneers are the team that won the NFC South last season. They still have a lot of core pieces there. Baker Mayfield at quarterback, Mike Evans at receiver, Bucky Irving at running back. They brought in very talented receiver Emeka Ibuka in the draft. Their biggest concern right now is their starting left tackle Tristan Wirfs is going to be out for a few for a few weeks with an injury. And for the Falcons, they still have a very talented offense with Bijan Robinson, Drake London, and Kyle Pitts. I think Michael Penix should be able to play well. He showed flashes of being a very good quarterback last season in the last 3 games of the year that he got to start in. And then defensively, they brought in some young pieces in the draft to help with their pass rush. They have a very good secondary. So I do think that the Atlanta Falcons will get the victory here. I think this could be a pretty high scoring game, but I think the Falcons have the talent on offense and defense to sneak away with a victory here. Moving on, you have the Cincinnati Bengals taking on the Cleveland Browns. The Bengals are a team that ended last year very strong, but ultimately missed the playoffs. The Browns are a team that have a lot of question marks around them. Right now, they have Joe Flacco as their starting quarterback, either biggest question mark. Um, they look like they're still going to have a very good defense. Still have Myles Garrett. They drafted Mason Graham in the first round, a defensive lineman out of Michigan, who I think will be a very good player for them. And for the Bengals, question marks for them. First one, do they start slow again? They've started slow the past few years. Um, Offensively, how does their offensive line hold up? Their offensive line had a lot of question marks last season. I think they might be a little bit worse than they were last year. Biggest question marks are on defense. They did bring Trey Hendrickson back. He, signed a new deal contract that just gives him more money for this season. They did draft Shamar Stewart, another defensive lineman, in the first round to hopefully help out their defense. A lot of question marks everywhere else on their defense. So, because of that, I am going to go with the Cleveland Browns to get the victory. Because Bengals start slow. Week 1 is not a good week for them generally. Joe Burrow has not played well historically in Cleveland. And I think that their defense has far too many question marks, and their offensive line has far too many question marks. I think that the Browns should be able to get after Joe Burrow. I think this could still be, their offense can still put up some points, but I don't think their defense can stop the Browns, even with Joe Flacco at quarterback. So I'm going to go with the Cleveland Browns to get the surprise victory here. Next up, you have the Miami Dolphins taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Miami, another team with a very high-powered offense, very good skill position players, but question marks with their offensive line, question marks with their defense, especially their secondary. They suffered a lot of injuries in the secondary. They got rid of Jalen Ramsey. He's in Pittsburgh now. They did get Mika Fitzpatrick in that deal to help the safety room, but a lot of question marks at corner. For the Colts, very talented team, skill positions as well, pretty decent offensive line. Daniel Jones is their starting quarterback, so mainly question marks around him. I think they do have a pretty good defense that should be able to get after Tua with how poor I think the offensive line is going to perform. So I do think the Indianapolis Colts get the victory here. I think it's going to be primarily off of Jonathan Taylor in the run game. Daniel Jones playing mostly conservative football. If he doesn't turn the ball over and he makes smart decisions, their offense should play well. And defensively, I think they can get after Tua and disrupt this offensive line. So I do think the Indianapolis Colts get the victory here over the Dolphins. Next up, you have the Las Vegas Raiders taking on the New England Patriots. The Raiders are a team that brought in Pete Carroll to be their head coach in the offseason after 1 year with Alec Pierce. The New England Patriots brought in Mike Vrabel to be their head coach in the offseason after 1 year with Gerard Mayo. Both these teams, I think, are very talented. Offensively for the Raiders, they brought in Geno Smith, who's a very good, consistent quarterback. They drafted Ashton Jeanty, who in the first round, who was the top running back prospect in this year's draft. They have a pretty solid offensive line. Still have Jacoby Myers, who's very consistent as a receiver. Defensively, they still have Max Crosby, one of the top defensive players in the league. And the Patriots did a big overhaul of their team. They improved their offensive line, drafting Will Campbell in the first round, improved their receiving game, bringing in Stephon Diggs in the offseason, drafted Kyle Williams in the third round, a receiver, drafted TreVeyon Henderson, a very good running back in the second round, give Drake May some more pieces around him. They beefed up their defense. They brought in Milton Williams from the Eagles, brought in Harold Landry, brought in Robert Spillane, brought in Carlton Davis. So this is a team that had money to spend, and they spent it, and they brought in guys that should be key players to this team. So I do think that the New England Patriots get the victory here. I think their offense is going to look better than it did last year with their better offensive line and better receiving game. I think their defense should perform very well. So I think the Patriots get the victory here. Next up, you have the Arizona Cardinals taking on the New Orleans Saints. Not a whole lot of analysis for this one. I think the Cardinals are the way more talented team. I think the Saints look like one of the worst teams in the NFL this season. They have Spencer Rattler as their starting quarterback. They have Kellen Moore as a rookie head coach. So I'm just going to keep this one short and sweet. I'm going to go with the Arizona Cardinals to get the victory here. I just think they are the better team. Next up, you have the Pittsburgh Steelers taking on the New York Jets. The battle of quarterbacks that played for the other team last year, as the Pittsburgh Steelers, led by Aaron Rodgers, who was on the Jets last year, take on the New York Jets, led by Justin Fields, from the Pittsburgh Steelers last year. I think this one will be a very low-scoring defensive battle. I think the run game will be a big key for this game, but I do think that the Pittsburgh Steelers have the better defense and on paper the better offense. So I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers will get the victory here. I think they'll be able to get after Justin Fields on defense. I think their offense should be able to score just enough for them to win this game. So I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers to get the victory. Next up, you have another NFC East matchup as the New York Giants take on the Washington Commanders. Now, the Giants, I believe, have a very talented defense, especially the front seven should be one of the best in the NFL. Their question marks are on offense, the offensive line. They have Russell Wilson starting at quarterback, and outside of Malik Nabers, I don't know what they have really for offensive weapons. And for the Commanders, they have Jaden Daniels going into his second year. Hopefully, he can elevate his game from last year. They've got Terry McLaurin still. They have a very hyped rookie in Ja'Cory Crosky-Merritt, or Bill Crosky, as he likes to go by Bill. Austin Eckler is a very good pass-catching running back. They beefed up their offensive line. They brought in Larry Tunsil in the offseason from the Texans. They still have a pretty good defense. So I'm going to go with the Commanders to get the victory here. But I do think that the Giants' front seven should make it very difficult on Jaden Daniels. But I do think the Commanders can do good enough to get the victory here. Next up, you have the Carolina Panthers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Panthers are a team that ended last season pretty strong. And the Jaguars are a team that had very high expectations last year. Didn't really live up to them. Trevor Lawrence wound up getting injured. He's coming back healthy. They have drafted Travis Hunter, a very talented player that is a very talented receiver and a very talented corner. They still have Brian Thomas Jr., a very good wide receiver. I think they have a pretty talented defense. The Panthers, their biggest question mark is their defense. They do have some talented pieces on offense. They drafted Ted McMillan out of Arizona. They still have Xavier Legette, a very good receiver. Chuba Hubbard's pretty good running back. But because there's so many question marks on this Panthers defense for now, I'm going to go with the Jacksonville Jaguars to get the victory. Moving on at some 405 games, you have all these times are Eastern Standard Time. You have the Tennessee Titans taking on the Denver Broncos. Tennessee Titans led by number 1 overall pick quarterback Cam Ward. Denver Broncos with Bo Nix going into his second season. With some pretty good pieces around him. They have one of the top defenses in the NFL. Another one that I'm going to keep kind of short. I think that because of this defense, the Denver Broncos get the victory here. I think they're going to be able to pressure Cam Ward. I think they're going to keep Calvin Ridley, who's the Titans' number 1 receiver, kind of in check. I think Pat Surtain is going to be able to shut him down for the most part. So I think primarily on this defense, and I think Bo Nix can play pretty well. I think the Denver Broncos get the victory here and give Cam Ward a very tough day for his NFL debut. Next up, you have the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Seattle Seahawks. The Seahawks are a team that made a change at quarterback, bringing in Sam Darnold after losing Geno Smith. They don't have DK Metcalf anymore. They traded him to the Steelers. They don't have Tyler Lockett anymore. They let him go. He's now on the Titans. So Jackson Smith and Jigba is their number 1 receiving option. They did bring in Cooper Kupp. See how he does. They kind of changed their scheme around, bringing in a new offensive coordinator. It's a very run-heavy scheme is what it looks like. I think offensively, the run game should play very well. Defensively, they're still very talented. And then for the 49ers, they're a team that didn't really lose a whole lot of pieces. They did lose Deebo Samuel, traded him to the Commanders. They don't have Brandon Ayuk as he is dealing with an injury. Still have Ricky Pearsall, who's a very talented receiver. Possibly get Juwan Jennings back at receiver for this game. He's dealing with a calf injury. They have Christian McCaffrey, who hopefully coming into the season healthy is a top running back in the NFL. Have George Kittle, who's a top tight end in the NFL right now. Defensively, they got Robert Saleh back as their defensive coordinator after he spent some time with the Jets, their head coach. I think he will really help them out and help scheme their defense better than it had been in the past few seasons. Brock Purdy is a very good quarterback, so I do think that the 49ers win this NFC West divisional matchup. Next up, you have an AFC North battle as the Detroit Lions take on the Green Bay Packers. Before the Micah Parsons trade, I thought the Lions could very easily win this game just based on they have Aiden Hutchinson coming back, got good defense, got a good high-powered offense, and the Green Bay Packers. I think now their defense looks a lot better with Micah Parsons. Their offense should be able to play well. Rookie wide receiver Matthew Golden should play good. They have Josh Jacobs, a very good running back. So a lot of talent all around both of these teams. But I am still going to go with the Detroit Lions to get the victory here. I think Micah Parsons could have a good game, although this Lions offensive line is very good, especially at the tackles with Penei Sewell and Taylor Decker. I think they can really slow him down. Unless Micah Parsons rushes from the middle, where their interior offensive line is not as good. I do think that their offensive line can slow down, especially slow down Micah Parsons. I do think that the Detroit Lions get the victory here. Next up, you have the Houston Texans taking on the LA Rams. The Texans are a team with quite a bit of question marks. They still have Nico Collins at wide receiver. And that's they brought in Christian Kirk in the offseason, and then they got a couple of rookies in Jaden Higgins and Jalen Noel. CJ Stroud is a good quarterback. I have questions on their offensive line. I think that is their weak point on their offense. Starting running back Joe Mixon is going to be out for at least 4 weeks. They do have Nick Chubb. They have Dameon Pierce, who's still there, is decent. They have Woody Marks, who's a rookie they drafted. A pretty good defense. And for the Rams, they have Matthew Stafford, a quarterback still, though he's dealing with some back issues, but he looks good to go. Looks good to play. Offensively, they have Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams in the receiving game, Kyren Williams in the running game. Behind him, they have Blake Corn, who's a decent running back, and Jarquez Hunter, who is kind of a home run threat at running back for them. And then defensively, they have a very, very good defensive line, and I think that will be the difference maker for them. So I do believe that the Los Angeles Rams will get the victory here. I think their defensive line should be able to feast on this not-so-great offensive line of the Houston Texans. So I think the Rams get the victory. Next up, on Sunday Night Football, you have a rematch of a divisional game from last year's playoffs, as you have the Baltimore Ravens taking on the Buffalo Bills. Both these teams very talented. Both these teams have, guys that are MVP front runners at quarterback. You have Lamar Jackson for the Ravens, Josh Allen for Bills. Both these teams have a bunch of talent around them. For the Ravens, they have Derrick Henry at running back, who's I think going to have a very good game. For the Bills, they have Dalvin Cook, obviously Josh Allen. They have some pieces at the receiving game. And for the Ravens, they have a very good defense. I think they improved their defense at their weakest position, which was secondary. They drafted Malachi Starks in the draft. They brought in Jair Alexander at corner from the Packers, who, if healthy, is a very good corner. So I do actually believe that the Baltimore Ravens will get the victory here. I think Derrick Henry can run all over this Buffalo defense. I think the Ravens defense should be able to slow down Josh Allen and really control the passing attack of the Bills. They don't have a true number one receiver they have Khalil Shakir, but he's not really a big play threat guy. They have Keon Coleman, who's going into his second season, but you don't know what he's really going to do. So I do think, make that Josh Allen can, do his best to keep the Bills in this game, but I think the Baltimore Ravens get the victory here. And finally, on Monday Night Football, you have another NFC North matchup as the Minnesota Vikings take on the Chicago Bears. The Minnesota Vikings are another team that they have a new quarterback. They have J.J. McCarthy, who's their second-year quarterback, who missed all of his rookie season because of an MCL injury he suffered in his first preseason game. So a lot of question marks there. However, they still have Aaron Jones. They brought in Mason Jordan in the offseason to help be a very good running back tandem. They still have Justin Jefferson. They are going to be without Jordan Addison for the first few weeks, but they traded for Adam Thielen from the Panthers. So TJ Hawkinson at tight end. They beefed up the interior of their offensive line, which is where they really struggled last season. They still have a very good defense led by defense coordinator Brian Flores. And for the Bears, I think offensively they have a lot of pieces. They're another team. They beefed up their interior offensive line where they really struggled last season to help, second-year quarterback Caleb Williams. They brought in Ben Johnson as the head coach, who was the former offensive coordinator of the Lions. I think that will help them. Their offense should look very good. Still have DJ Moore, Roma Dunze going in his second season. They drafted Luther Burden out of Missouri in the second round as a very talented receiver. They drafted Colston Loveland, a very talented tight end out of Michigan. I think their defense can still play pretty good, but ultimately I am going to go with the Minnesota Vikings to get the victory here. I don't know how well Caleb Williams is going to play. He looks like he's still kind of adjusting to this Ben Johnson offensive system, and I think this defense will give him a lot of fits. They're a team that can generate a lot of pressure, generate a lot of confusion for quarterbacks. So I do think that the Minnesota Vikings can get the victory here. Let me know in the comments who you guys think is going to win this week. If you guys are excited for the start of the NFL season, don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time, see you.